The music was loud, the laughter louder. Guests danced under the soft glow of exquisite lighting as waiters weaved through the hall with trays of wine. At the center of the crowd stood Mr. and Mrs. Adigun, glowing with confidence. Bola's red gown shimmered under the lights, while her husband, Femi, smiled politely, his arm locked in hers. "You know my husband works with Doriva Oil and Gas," Bola said, proudly to a circle of women. "He is a manager in their offshore department. The salary alone could buy a duplex in this city." Her friends giggled in admiration. "Ah, Bola, you're a lucky woman," one said. "Doriva Oil? That's serious money," another added. Femi forced a smile. He wasn't comfortable with how often his wife bragged, but he understood. It made her happy. That night, as they drove home in their modest white sedan car, the music of the party still played faintly in their heads. The city lights glimmered through the windshield. Bola leaned toward him, still smiling. "You saw how they looked at us? It's because they know you're not an ordinary man." Femi chuckled weakly. Ordinary or not, I just want peace, Bola. I want the world to know the kind of husband I have." He smiled, but said nothing. Deep inside, he felt uneasy. The world she was painting was brighter than the one he lived in. A few weeks later, everything crashed. Femi returned home early one evening, his shirt loose, his eyes red. He stood at the doorway for minutes before calling her name. "Bola." She peered from the kitchen, wiping her hands with the towel. "You're back early. Is there no traffic jam as always?" He cut her off, voice shaking slightly. "They laid us off. Doriva Oil. I'm no longer employed." The towel slipped from her hand. "What did you just say?" "I lost my job today." She laughed nervously, thinking it was one of his jokes, but his face said otherwise. "Femi, please don't play with me." "I'm serious, Bola." The air between them thickened. She sat slowly, trying to process that. How could that happen?" "You said your department was stable." "I thought so too. Doriva Oil downsized staff strength. My whole department was cut off. I tried everything, but..." His voice trailed off. "But the management decided they must cut costs. I was among those affected." Tears filled her eyes. "So, what happens now?" He took her hand. "Don't worry. I'll find another job soon. Something better." She stared at him silently, her mind already racing through unpaid bills, school fees, groceries. That night she didn't sleep. She lay awake listening to her husband's breathing, wondering if her dream life was over. Femi submitted his certificates and data everywhere, attended interviews that led nowhere. His savings began to shrink, and the respect in his wife's eyes began to fade. The major job openings were not for his position and level, and when he applied for those lesser positions, he was rejected, for his experience and level was considered higher. Then one morning, as they had breakfast, he smiled suddenly. "Bola, I have good news." Her eyes brightened instantly. "You got a new job?" "Yes, another oil company, Dumo Energy. They just employed me." She screamed in joy, rushing to hug him. "Ah, I knew it. I told my mother that God will not shame us." He smiled weakly, guilt burning his chest, because it was all a lie. That Monday, he dressed in his best shirt and tie, kissed his wife goodbye, and drove out like a man heading for work. But instead of turning toward the city island, he drove to the outskirts of the city, parked under a tree, and changed into jeans, a plain t-shirt, and a baseball cap. He exhaled deeply, whispering to himself, "Femi, this is what it has come to." He turned on his ignition and started his day as a taxi driver. From morning till night, he carried strangers across the city, outskirts, teachers, students, workers, anyone who needed a ride. By evening, he was drenched in sweat and exhaustion. Before returning home, he parked near a quiet filling station, changed back into his corporate clothes, sprayed perfume and purchased fuel, and headed home. At home, Bola greeted him with a smile. "You're late. How was work?" "Stressful," he said, forcing a tired laugh. "My new boss is tougher than the last one." She smiled proudly. "That's good. At least you're in a place that challenges you." He nodded, hiding the pain behind his eyes. Days stretched into weeks. His life became a routine of deceit. Each morning, he left as a manager, and each evening he returned as one. Only he knew what truly happened in between. Whenever Bola asked for something expensive, he reminded her that his company had a strict savings policy. "We're saving for a bigger project," he would say. "It's part of our corporate culture." She believed him. After all, he still looked like a man of class. Clean suit and shirts, shiny shoes, calm confidence. But beneath that neat suit was a man drowning in exhaustion and shame. Sometimes, while waiting for passengers, he would close his eyes and whisper, "God, please help me find a real job again." His only friend was another driver named Sunday, who knew the truth. One afternoon, as they both rested in a canteen, Sunday said, "Femi, this thing you are doing will not last. Tell your wife the truth. Taxi work is not a job to be ashamed of. In fact, any job at all." Femi looked at him for a moment. "You don't understand. If Bola hears this, she'll break. She believes I'm still that man she brags about." Sunday sighed. "But one day, she will find out." "I pray that day never comes," Femi said quietly. But life had other plans. His car began to break down often. The money he made barely covered repairs. Sometimes he borrowed from other drivers just to survive. He even took mobile app loans to keep the illusion alive. Then one afternoon, as he was refueling at a filling station, he saw a familiar car drive past. His heart skipped. It was Bola's friend, Ngozi. He ducked quickly, adjusting his cap. God, please don't let her see me. But it was too late. She had seen him. Later that evening, while Bola and Ngozi were talking on the phone, Ngozi said casually, "Bola, I saw your husband today." "Where?" "Somewhere on the outskirts of the city." But it was strange. He was in a cab, driving passengers. Bola burst into laughter. "Ngozi, please. My husband. You must have seen someone that looks like him." Ngozi hesitated. Maybe I was mistaken." Bola ended the call still smiling, but something inside her felt uneasy, but she kept it to herself. Days later, another friend visited her and mentioned the same thing, this time with more detail. He was even wearing a black cap and shouting destinations and names of major roads on the outskirts of the city. "I was in traffic when I saw him." Bola smiled tightly. "That can't be my husband. He's a manager in an oil company." Her friend shrugged. "Okay, maybe I saw wrong." But this time, Bola took it serious. That night, she mentioned it to Femi, laughing. "You won't believe what Ugo told me today. Same thing Ngozi said last week. She said she saw you driving a taxi. Do you have a twin brother in this city?" she said amidst laughter. Femi laughed too, though his stomach turned. "Ah, these your friends. Always seeing what's not there." They both laughed, but his mind was trembling fast as he stood looking at her. Weeks passed, and Bola began to notice little things she couldn't explain. Femi, once sharp and vibrant, now returned home every night, drained, Bola noticed how exhausted he looked lately. He overslept most times, that even the alarm clock he set could not wake him up, except when she did. Femi, this new job must be really tough. You barely eat, you sleep off like someone who carried cement all day, she joked one night. He laughed lightly. It's a new company. They push us hard, we're handling too many projects at once. She sighed. Just take care of yourself, okay? He nodded. I will. She would stare at him, trying to believe him. But something didn't add up. He had said Dumo Energy was headquartered in City Island. Yet he always left home at 8 every morning and never drove toward the island. Whenever she mentioned visiting his office, he found a reason to discourage her. The company is under renovation, he would say one week. Next week, I will take you, he would promise the next. After a while, she stopped asking. But deep down, curiosity grew like a wound she couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Femi's fake world was falling apart. His car engine had begun knocking. Repairs continuously drained the little he made from taxi driving. Loan alerts came every week, demanding repayment. His friend Sunday watched him spiral. One evening, as they sat beside their cars, Sunday said quietly, "Oh boy, this thing is reaching breaking point. You can't continue like this." Femi rubbed his face tiredly. I know, but if I stop, how will my family eat? You don't understand, Bola. That woman built her pride around my job. Better her pride breaks than your life collapses, Sunday said. Femi nodded, but said nothing. He was trapped between love and shame. The next day, while he drove along the highway, his phone rang. It was Bola. Femi, our son called from school. He's sick, fever and vomiting. They said we should come. Femi's chest tightened. I'm in the middle of something at work. Maybe you should go first. I'll join you soon. All right, she said quietly, sounding disappointed. He hated himself for lying again. She left immediately, taking a bus to the boarding school outside the city. When she arrived, her son lay weak on his bed, but smiled faintly when he saw her. She took care of him through the night, praying and worrying, while Femi continued driving passengers across the city, unaware that fate was arranging their collision. Traffic slowed. She leaned on the car window, exhausted, when suddenly she heard a familiar voice shouting, "One more person we move. Last seat. Enter fast." She froze. Her eyes darted toward the sound, and what she saw made her heart drop. There, on the opposite lane, was her husband, Femi, wearing a faded t-shirt, trousers dusty from long use, and a black cap. His once shiny car had become a cab, its windows down, passengers inside, and he stood waving passengers to board his cab. He turned his face toward the road, calling for more passengers, until Bola, who had already jumped down from her vehicle, stood face to face with him. For a second, time stopped. He froze, standing still beside his car as Bola shouted his name, bending and leaning towards him. Bola's lips parted, but no further sound came out. Her husband, the man she told the world was a top manager, was driving a taxi. A voice from inside his car broke the silence. "Oga, please drive now. We are late to work." But Femi didn't move. He just stood there, eyes locked into space, his hands on his head. The passengers kept shouting curses on him as their anger boiled. Bola could no longer hold it. She whispered his name to herself. "Femi?" But her voice cracked. Then she angrily walked away and flagged down another taxi and left for home. Her entire body was shaken as she sat on the taxi heading home. Tears rolled down silently. She didn't even know what hurt more, The lie, or the thought that her husband had carried the shame alone for months. When Femi finally returned home late that evening, the house was silent. The front door was half open. He stepped inside and saw her luggage lying by the doorway. He dropped his car keys, panic rising in his chest. "Bola," he called softly. "Please, don't leave." She stood by the dining table, her eyes red, her face swollen from crying. "Femi," she said quietly, "how could you?" He fell on his knees immediately. "Please, Bola, let me explain." "Explain what?" "That you've been deceiving me for months. That all those nights you came home pretending to be tired from office work, you are actually driving passengers on the street." He bowed his head, tears falling freely. "I didn't want to lose your respect. I thought I could fix things before you found out." "Respect?" she repeated bitterly. "You didn't just lose my respect, Femi. You broke my heart." He crawled closer, clutching her feet. "Bola, please. I did it for us. I couldn't bear to see you suffer." She pulled away, sobbing. "Do you know what you've done to me? I told everyone, my friends, my family, that my husband works with Dumo Energy. I defended you with pride. I challenged my friends who claimed they saw you using our car for taxi business. Now look at me," he whispered, voice shaking. "I'm sorry. I was ashamed." She covered her face with her hands, crying harder. "Shame? You should have trusted me, Femi. We could have faced it together." For the first time in months, there were no lies left between them. Just silence, heavy and raw. They sat apart, both crying quietly, until night came. When he finally spoke, his voice was faint. "I will fix this, Bola. I swear." She didn't respond. She just stood, walked into their bedroom, and began unpacking her bags. He followed her slowly. "You're not leaving?" She paused, looked at him through tired eyes. "I wanted to, but then I remembered something. Our son. What will I tell him? That his father is a liar?" Femi said nothing, tears streaking his face. "I'm not staying because I forgive you," she continued softly. "I'm staying because I need to think." He nodded. That night, they slept on the same bed, but worlds apart. The next morning, she woke up first. The sun streamed through the curtain, touching his face. For the first time, she saw him differently. Not as the proud man she bragged about, but as someone broken, afraid, human. As he stirred awake, she spoke gently. "Our son is recovering. The school nurse said he's better." He smiled faintly, relieved. Then she added, "Femi, I'm still angry. But I've been thinking, maybe this taxi work isn't shameful after all. You should have told me. We'd have managed together." Femi remembered all that his friend Sunday told him and realized he was right after all. He looked at her, shocked. "You mean you're not leaving?" She sighed. "I should. But maybe this is where we start again." Femi couldn't believe it. He reached for her hand slowly, but before he could speak, his phone buzzed on the table. A new message. He glanced at it lazily, thinking it was another lone reminder. But when he opened it, he froze. His eyes widened. Bola frowned. "What is it?" Femi couldn't speak. Her eyes scanned towards the phone, and her jaw dropped. His breath caught in his throat. He whispered, "God." Bola, seeing his face, frowned. "What's wrong? Is it about our son?" He shook his head silently, eyes wide, still staring at the screen. "Femi, you're scaring me," she said, walking closer. He handed her the phone. "Read it." She took it and began to read out loud. Halfway through, she stopped. Her hand trembled, Congratulations, you have been selected as the new general manager of Horizon Oil and Gas Services. Attached are your appointment details, official car, and housing benefits. Kindly resume next Monday." She gasped, tears instantly filling her eyes. "Femi, is this real?" He nodded slowly, trembling, unable to process it himself. "It's real." For a second, they both just stood there, speechless. Then she burst into tears. This time, not from shame or anger, but disbelief. She covered her mouth and laughed through the tears. "Femi, after everything, after all these..." He smiled weakly. "I don't even know how I feel." I was just about to sell the car. For a moment, they just stared at each other, held themselves in warm embrace. Both stunned, both crying, realizing that sometimes grace arrives after everything else breaks. This story is from African Folktales by Momonelli. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button, like and leave a comment, as we have got some more videos on the way, which we think you are really going to enjoy. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.